Welcome. This is Everything But the Kitchen Sink Part 2. So what that includes is yoga, weights, and high-intensity interval training. But please know that all of this is modifiable. So you can do the movements without the weights, and you can do all of the high-intensity stuff at a lower intensity without jumping. So come and join me on your mat. Okay, so I recommend a variety of weights, but if you don't have a variety of weights, get what you have and we'll do our best. So that means sometimes making choices to use the weight, sometimes making choices to not, sometimes choosing one weight instead of both weights. And so instead of doing maybe a weight in each hand, you would do one weight, or getting something that you have at your home that has some weight to it and using that. All right, so sit up nice and tall. Also grabbing a blanket and a towel will be useful for this workout. Inhale fully through the nose and sigh out. So I have a lot of airplanes that fly over this rental home, and I have the window open because it's beautiful out, so we might have a little airplane noise going on. Bring your hands together to your heart and settle into your body. So this body is a gift. So many things precisely had to happen for you uniquely to be born. Sometimes we just kind of take this for granted that we're here. Take a moment and settle into the fact that this is very special. Find a supportive breath in through the nose and out through the nose. Set your intention for this practice, whatever it is that you need. Let it be easily attainable. Maybe it's focus, breath, calm, health, just any bit of that coming to you. And we'll seal these intentions with an Om, so you can either listen or Om along. Inhale fully. Take a sigh out. Shake it out a little bit. So I do want to point out that one of the reasons why oming is good for us is because humming calms the nervous system, calms the vagus nerve down. So anytime you're feeling a little wound up, especially lower hums. All right. And I do want to mention I'm wearing gloves today because I'm going to use some heavier weight. When I'm not doing videos, I use heavier weight than when I'm doing the videos, just so that I don't get as winded. I do recommend, if you do a lot of weights, to get some gloves, some weight gloves, if you have tender hands, okay? It really does help. These are Simdry, S-I-M-D-R-I. Got them on Amazon. They're, I don't know, less than $10. So come and join me in a downward facing dog. Move your blanket or towel out of the way. And again, you can do this with your gloves on or off. You can even put them back on put them on when we're going to do the weights portions, but you'll kind of be taking them on and off because we'll switch a little bit. And let's pedal one knee and the other. Even if all you did was this posture today, it would still be much more helpful than if you didn't do it. So opening the hamstrings, the Achilles tendon, the calves, lengthening the spine, and getting rooted to the earth. Now reach your heels back a little bit. Inhale fully through the nose and sigh out through the mouth. Relax your neck and jaw and shake it out. All right, we'll come in and out of a plank pose or a knees down plank. So it's completely up to you which one you want to do. So downward dog to plank would look like this. Downward dog to plank, or downward dog to knees down plank, downward dog to knees down plank. And in both of these planks, you are holding your organs gently towards the spine. So you're attempting not to sag here and go in the kind of reverse of downward dog. So draw those organs towards the spine. Find your breath. And we're just heating up and finding some mobility into the joints, especially the hips and the shoulders at this point, some in the ankles. And then we'll come into the held plank. And you might hold your knees down plank or full plank. You can stay in the hold, or you can do forearms down, back to classic. Forearms down, back to classic. To make this a little more accessible, widen your feet apart and they'll act as kickstands left to right so that you feel a little more stable left to right. If you want more of a challenge, take the ball joints of the feet closer together and attempt not to turn the side body or sides. You know what I'm saying, not to turn your body towards the sides, but more so keep the keep the belly facing the ground. All right, downward facing dog. Apparently, I can't do that movement and speak at the same time. Deep breath in and big sigh out. Turn your heels in and your toes out in the direction that just feels comfortable, the amount that feels comfortable. Press your hips a little back, and now swish and sway your hips side to side. Now we're getting a little more into the glutes and the area around the IT bands, outer sides of the legs. Beautiful stretch. And then turn the toes forward and walk your hands back to your feet and take an accessible fold. That might mean that it's somewhere up here with the knees bent, maybe your hands on the shins, maybe fingertips to the floor. So I, am generally a pretty flexible person because I work on it a lot, but because I worked out so much recently in the back of my legs, I'm a lot tighter, so I'm not gonna go as low. I want you to always give yourself that. See how you feel each day and only do the amount that's right. Bend your knees, straighten your legs. Bend your knees, straighten your legs. We're gonna start to pump more blood into the quads, into the hamstrings and glutes. And now we're warming up those knee joints. Up and down. And then from here, you'll go ahead and hinge those hips back, bending the knees, reach your arms forward, which will bring the work into the back, and slowly press into the floor and rise all the way up. And bring your hands back to your heart. So we're gonna bring in the weights, and again, you're gonna choose, how do you feel today? If you don't feel very strong, let's go lesser weight. If you feel pretty darn strong, let's go higher up. I'm gonna do 12s here, and we'll go ahead and we're gonna lean over a little bit. So when you lean over, let's not round over and hunch over, but instead hinge at your hip crease, back feet are hips distance apart, or a little closer if you like that. I tend to go a little wider. And we're gonna do a drag curl. So from here, we're going to keep our inner arms alongside of our bodies, draw gently the organs towards the spine, and it's like we're sliding those inner arms back as we hold the weights palm facing up, elbows drag back. You're attempting to take the shoulder blades more onto the upper back. Okay, so we're working the back here as well as the biceps, as well as everything else, the legs, core, but you're not collapsing at the lumbar by trying to get the shoulder blades onto the back. So think about drawing a nice support front, back, and sides, and not overdoing any one of those directions. Okay. Keep your slides going, and I want you to do it in a pace that feels suitable to you. Now, you can play with leaning over more, which will put more emphasis into the legs and into the back, and possibly even the arms. So depending on the degree you want, play with it. Higher up, maybe a little easier. Lower down, more difficult. 3, 2, and 1. Slowly stand up. Just let the weights traction the arms. Take your breathing. Nice and slow. You'll feel your heart rate has kicked up. Place your weights down and take yourself into a child's pose. So let's get grounded. Root your palms down, reach your hips back, and sway the hips a little side to side. We're gonna open that side body a little bit and stretch through the shoulders. Walk off to one side. You can stack the hands if you want. Generally, the side body that you're stretching, that's the hand that goes on top. Breathing here. And over to the opposite side. Just getting that side body nice and open. Make room for more breath. We're gonna move from the arms and, well, that was arms focus, but yes, it was everything. And we're gonna work into the quads and the legs a little bit more, glutes, hamstrings. I'm going to take one heavy weight, and again, you can, if you really, I keep getting hair in my mouth. In fact, I'm gonna take two heavy weights because I really wanna get a good workout today. So if you're using one weight, you'll hold it like this. If you're using two weights, they'll face each other. One end of the dumbbell away, one end of the dumbbell close. And we're gonna come into a goddess squat. This can also be done with zero weights at all, okay? You're roughly 45 degrees with the feet, but it will depend on your hips. And you're gonna move very slowly, slow is key, in and out of a goddess squat, keeping the chest nice and high. Yes, you're gonna be leaning over slightly with this, but you're not here, okay? So keeping the chest high, keeping the arms long, and the movement is happening in the lungs and in the legs. So you'll feel groin here, quads, and glutes most likely. And of course, you're holding your weight, so you're getting upper body here, you're getting your pecs, and you're getting the forearms and grip strength. Nice and slow, root the heel, the big toe ball joint, and the pinky toe ball joint down. Make sure that the knees are not rolling in, but try to reach the knees in the direction of your toes. 3, 2, and last one. Take your weights to the sides, heel toe your feet in. Again, traction the arms and find your breath. Unlock the knees. Heart rate should probably be up, and we'll put our weights down very carefully and come into a child's pose. Same thing as before, reaching the hips back, arms forward. Now, knees can be together or separated depending on what feels better in your back. Walk over to one side, breathe. Walk over to the other side and breathe. For the next movement, you just need one weight, and we're going to be in that same pose we were in here, right? Where we were coming in and out, but we're gonna stay in, and we'll be doing this movement, but not that fast, okay? So you only need one weight, and hold that at the ends with your hands. Come into that hip hinge, so take the sitting bones back, and start with the elbows near the knees or higher up, okay? So either higher up like you're doing a chair pose, similar to what we did before here, okay? So where we were leaned over, okay, but not too far, or lower with the elbows on the knees. This is where you're gonna gauge how you're doing with this and if it's the correct amount of weight. If it is not the correct amount of weight, you are already too tired to sustain it, change the weight or don't do any weight. If you want more work, take the elbows off of the knees and you can't rely on that anymore, and it's a ton more work. We're doing 5, 4, 3, everything but the kitchen sink, 2, and 1. Slowly stand with the weight at your chest if you had a weight. Breathe here, elbows underneath the edges of the weight, then breathe, depending on the size of your weight. Now move your weight to the side, but keep it handy, unless you know that that's not the right weight, and choose something else. We'll do our pushes. So I've been really liking to bring these in, starting small, push, same foot, push. You're taking a little lunge and you're pushing back. This is fast twitch muscle fibers, and we're gonna slowly increase to the level that we wanna be at. If I step further forward, my back heel has to lift. So know that's true. If you have knee issues, stepping far forward is not going to be helpful to you. So you're gonna wanna keep this small. There's a balance element here, of course, and this is high intensity interval training because we're attempting, with our heart rate already up, to move quickly and to do as many as we can. Try to still breathe through your nose. If you want to bring the arms in, reach, pull back, reach, pull back. Notice again, we're not switching sides. We're staying on one side. 3, 2, 1. Hands over heart, mountain pose, breathe. Settle down, find your center, find your intention, and let that little word of your intention live inside every cell right now. Now bring the hands to the waist, and we'll start with the opposite foot. So whichever foot you weren't doing before. Remember, we're growing this incrementally. Starting small, and maybe eventually venturing out into a lengthier step. You'll probably notice, because there's a balance here, that one side is easier for you and one side feels a little more challenging. And maybe that's not the case, but I know it is definitely for me. Again, you don't have to step very far forward. And you can now bring in the arms if you haven't already. Reach, pull back. Bringing in that aspect of reaching and pulling. We don't do a lot of pulling in yoga, and that's why one of the reasons why bringing weights in is so helpful, because it makes us stronger in new ways. 5, 4, 3, 2, last one. Hands over heart, opposite hand under, breathe. Unlock the knees, unlock the glutes. Free up the mind. Yes, you are in deep challenge, and it's okay as long as you find the modification that works. Work is not a problem, but overdoing it is the problem. Soften to the bridge of the nose. Find freedom in the lungs. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, fold and walk into your plank or knees down plank. First vinyasa option is here, or child's pose or downward dog. Heels might rock forward. Chaturanga would be here. All the way down would be here. Cobra, tops of the feet are down, shoulder blades back. Don't jut your chin. Or upward dog, tops of the feet down, hands down. Exhaling to downward dog, or even child's pose. Maybe child's pose in between upward dog and downward dog. Maybe you take a little break. Widen your stance and do that same swish side to side that we did before. Keep your breath nice and thorough throughout the body. Walk your hands back to your feet. Take a gentle fold, again, to the degree that feels right to you. And then choose how you want to rise, and rise up. Maybe reach and bring your hands to your heart. So we're gonna do a weight snatch that is, you're pulling it up, okay? If you have never done something like this before, okay, then I would try it with no weight first and then a very small weight second to that, especially because this is back, this is hips, this is hamstrings, this is upper, this is everything, and it's asymmetrical. So I would start with something like 5 or below after you've tried it a few times without the weight. So choose whichever hand you want. Feet are not super wide, they are wider than hips. You're gonna lean down, grab an imaginary weight, and come up and down. If you wanna make this a little more challenging, keep the other arm out to the side. If you want to make it a little easier, put the hand on the waist for a little more stability, okay? A little less work in the arm. As you become ready, we're not in a hurry. You can move in and out here. I'm starting with my hand on my waist until I feel more stable. And if I feel more stable, I will take that arm out to the side. I am in no hurry here, okay? This is a new movement for a lot of us. Okay, and be careful. You don't have to go as low as I'm going. You can go higher up, or you can just do the arm, woo, without moving the torso. 2 and 1. Move that weight down in between your feet and come up to stand. Bring your hands to your waist and draw a circle with your hips. So we want to find mobility as well as stability, and reverse that direction. We want to find strength as well as flexibility. All right, shake it on out. What I just did was my dominant arm first, which is normally our tendency. We do the arm that's easier. So if the second side is not your dominant arm, you might choose fewer reps to begin if it's just totally tuckers out easily, or a little less weight and the same amount of reps, okay? So start with no weight first, hand on the waist, and now maybe switching to the weight. The opposite hand can come out to the side or stay at the waist depending on what feels right. It's picking it up, bending the elbow, and then reaching it the rest of the way up with a press. So you're doing a pull, a switch, and a press. There's a lot going on here. A lot of muscle groups having to work together and communicate in ways that they probably have not done before. All right. Stay with that breathing and try to get as much breath in and out through your nose as you can. I'm talking a lot through these videos, so I happen to do a lot more breathing out through my mouth than I would in a regular practice. 2 and 1. Take that weight down, bring your hands to your waist, and draw your circle one direction and then the other direction. Okay, so lean over, bend the knees any amount, grab that weight, place it in your hands, and we're going to keep the feet wide for this and take the elbows towards each other alongside of the ears. They can be slightly forward of the ears. I just don't want them to be more here, okay? So more here, and take your weight up and down. I also recommend trying this with no weight first, or a block if you have a yoga block, or a very small weight. You're not jutting your pelvis forward and jamming into the lumbar. Find nice and strong all the way from the feet to the crown of the head, nice long line, and micro bend the knees if you have a tendency to hyperextend. This is definitely shoulders, hands, forearms, and triceps. 3, 2, last one, and bring that weight in front of you slowly, okay, and place it down. Now we'll come into some more high intensity movement from a plank pose position. Again, this is modifiable. Please keep that in mind. Never feel bad for modifying, because the alternative is usually not even doing the workout, right? So it's either doing a heck of a lot modified or doing nothing. What's better for the body, right? Unless you really need to rest, and then rest is ready for the body. But when you need exercise. So modification on all fours, organs towards the spine, knee taps. Tapping the knee, alternating, and tapping a little button somewhere in front of the knee. A lot of work already. Second option is your slow mountain climber, taking the knee in towards the chest, and then playing with where the knee goes. You can even take the knee out to the side. Same thing in all fours. You can change the direction that your knees are going. Keep yourself steady in your breath. And again, we're not looking for a race here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Downward dog or child's pose, please choose wisely. If you would like to put a second vinyasa in, if vinyasa is part of your practice and it really feels like you want one, need one, then take it. If not, let's just skip that. Finding your breath. I'm skipping the vinyasa so I can catch my breath a little bit more. And then from here, we're going to lower all the way down to the belly. If you'd like to do a little chaturanga through that, you can, or not. And rest when you get there. Sway your hips a little bit side to side, tops of the feet down, then bend your knees, and maybe just sway side to side. Lackadaisical, soft in the chest, soft in the glutes, breathing through those lungs. Okay, Sphinx pose to strengthen the back here. Elbows underneath the shoulders, palms down. Tops of the feet down. I love to take my feet a little wider than hips distance on this one. Find what works for you. Shoulder blades onto the back. Now we're gonna come into that pull action that we were doing a little bit earlier in our fast twitch movement. Draw the elbows back, lift the heart as you pull the arms back. Now lift right above your pubic bone into a little bit of activity. Breathe here. Really strengthening. Now if you want to come back into those triceps where we were a moment ago, lift the elbows about 1/2 inch. That's also going to increase the work paraspinally all through the back and even into the glutes. Breathing here. 3, 2, anyone else shaking? And 1. Lower the elbows and come back down for a rest. I'm not coming all the way down because I will crush my microphone and that will not sound very good. Okay. Pressing up to all fours can look however it needs to get there. If you want to, you can take your hands alongside of you, elbows back, tuck your toes, press your knees down, draw your organs way up towards your spine, and press to all fours. Nice, strong transition. Here's where I would offer patting the knees. And from here, you can try this movement first with no weight as we've been working, and then add the weight if you like. So no collapsing in the table, but no rounding, but drawing the organs towards the spine. From here, knees are about sitting bone to hips distance apart, and you're just gonna begin to lift and lower one leg. It's a slow movement, and there's not a huge range of motion. So I'm not taking the knee all the way down and all the way up. I'm kind of going in between, about 30 degrees or so. Okay, now that's already really hard, right? If you want to add weight, you can move that weight and really tuck it in behind your knee and add that weight. Again, I worked out a lot recently in the back of my legs, so I'm only gonna choose 5s here. And what happens a lot of times is we try to get the hip higher and we drop the belly down. So please decrease your range of movement and keep the organs gently drawing in. There will be some movement here because we're all connected, okay? 3, 2, 1, done. Let's stretch out our hamstrings. Downward dog, no vinyasa this time, just that beautiful downward dog in breath. Lower slowly to the knees, and we'll practice on the other side, lifting and lowering on that other side. Instead of turning the hip out to the side, attempt to keep yourself more in an internal rotation. There will be a degree for most people's hips of external rotation. That's normal and natural, but we're just attempting to keep the top of the thigh facing down. If you want to add that weight, place it in that sort of the pit of the knee. I hear people saying instead of armpits, knee pits. I mean, I think that explains it right. It just, I don't like the sound of it, knee pit. But that, I guess it is what it is. All right, continue nice and slow. Check in with the core. Check in with the weight distribution across your hands and see if you've weighted one more than the other, and try to even it out a little bit more. There's all sorts of ways that we can get into the minutia of this and make it a little more stable. 3, 2, 1, and release your weight off to the side, and we'll go to downward dog for something a little different this time. First, just your classic downward dog. Breathing here, maybe a pedal in and out. And then move your blanket or towel off to the side out of your way, and come back into that downward facing dog. And we're going to do ankle taps. So widen your stance and then alternately tap the ankles or the shins, maybe outer calves, maybe knees or thighs. And then you're gonna stay either more in this downward dog like so, or you're going to come in and out of a wider footed plank with the tap back on the downward facing dog position. Plank, downward dog tap, plank, downward dog tap, or downward dog taps. Choose what works for you. And if what works for you is to go to a child's pose or a downward dog, then yes, beautiful options all the time. If I never instruct a child's pose, that doesn't mean you never go to a child's pose. That means this is your body, your time. Choose what you need. One more each side. And then take the feet to your classic downward dog positioning. Look forward and step your feet there. Take a little fold. And then choose how you want to rise. And reach up maybe. And bring your hands to your heart. Samastitihi. Steady and even in your breathing. Unlock the knees. Deep breath in. And sigh it out, shake it out. So I'm going to go with, I think, just 10-pound weights at this point. And we're going to do options, which start with a sideways, up and down. So, weights are to the sides, up and down with the legs. So you're hinging back at the hips. Feet are about hips distance or a little closer together. And you're just hanging those weights down by your sides as you move in and out. Now maybe you're decreasing the range of movement here because that feels better. Totally a great modification to do, okay? Maybe the weights come all the way, or close, I should say, to the floor. Optional shift is to stay, or weights in front, weights to sides. Bending the knees, weights in front, bending the knees, weights to sides. So you can choose if you want to change it or keep it as it was. And maybe now you want to play with putting a little more weight in the heels as you hinge the hips back. And now we'll play with slowing it down where we're really going to feel it in that slow down molasses movement. I am sweating. And last one. And then we have the option to add pulses, and I recommend putting the weights down if you're too tuckered out. Pulse. Weights to the side, pulse. This is huge. This is a ton of work. My legs are on fire. I almost called them arms because I couldn't speak anymore. Pulsing, weights to the sides. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stand. Holy moly. Weights down. So those pulses, especially after you've already worked the legs, it's really hard because you're not allowing yourself that straight position, which is a little more rest. You're staying more in that contracted position. So shake out the legs and we'll take a little sway side to side. Woo, letting that go. And then pause and center, and let's check in with our neck and shoulders. This is all about balance, and we don't want to do so much work in one area and then let that be a detriment to another area. So we have to find releases where we can. And let's bring a mountain pose and some stability and breath right now. Wow, that heart rate is up. High intensity interval training and weight training are amazingly beneficial at any age, but especially as we get older, so that we keep our muscle mass, which also burns calories, at rest. And we build our bones as well and keep those bones nice and strong, among many other benefits. Deep breath in and sigh that out, shake that out. Now we're gonna do a combination, really good to do movements that you've never done before. And again, take this slow. So find a little squat, tap one heel forward, in, out to the side, in, toes back, in, okay? So heel in, side, I don't care what side of what part of the foot comes down, somewhere on the inner foot, in, back, okay? So now you can speed that up, but the main thing is you're coming into the center each time with the same foot. Heel, inner, toes. Heel in, inner in, toes in. All right, if this becomes too much work, because it is a lot of work, you're going to stand tall and do the same work with a smaller range of movement and no squat. One more. and stand up nice and tall. I'm sure you're feeling one leg is burning more than the other if you were in that half squat. All right, shake it out. Other side, little squat, heel in, inner foot in, toes in, heel, inner, toes. And if you by accident go to the side like that, who cares? Just start over and just see if you can train your brain to come back in every time and use a different part of the foot to touch down. Now, I notice on this side, I feel like I'm wobbling more. I think this side is a little weaker right now, and it's a little more tired. So I'm going to attempt to slow my movement down and stabilize just a little bit more. Yeah, okay. Now I'm getting tired, so I'm gonna move to standing and continuing the movement. New neural pathways all over the place. I'm pretty sure that you've never done this movement before. One more time. Stand up and mountain pose. Breathe. Take the arms out into cactus or whatever you want to call this, goalpost, and do a slow twist to one side and back, getting into that upper thoracic. Slow twist to the side and back. Let it be a turn. Take your pelvis with you a bit, but don't torque on the knee. Be careful with the knee. And back, turn, other side, and back. Now twist. Pelvis doesn't go with you at all. And back, doesn't go with you. And back. Inhale, reach up. Interlace the fingers. Press the palms away. Widen your stance. Take itty bitty turns or twists. I'm taking a turn because I want to get into the front of my hips a little bit more. If you want to twist, it's more isolated and the pelvis stays forward. Turn, whoop, and your knee might pop. Take it to the side. Inhale, center. Exhale, part the hands and fold. Maybe, again, it could be on the knees with the knees bent, fingertips, palms, or even farther. You might want to sway a little side to side. And now we'll come into Malasana. So I have a blanket here. If my heels lift and I can't put my heels down, I'll put my heels on a blanket. If you can easily get the heels down and you don't need the blanket, that's fine. If you have something to sit on and you can put weight into that, that might be best, especially if you have knee issues. Or this can be done on a chair where you just put your weight into the chair. Breathing and opening the groin. Slow down that breath. Preparing one more. We have one more of each, okay? One more. Well, we have more yoga, a little more yoga because we're gonna go down to Shavasana, but included. We're gonna do one more HIIT, one more weights, and then a little more yoga, okay? So as you're ready, fingertips down, turn your toes forward, come into a little fold, and roll all the weight up the spine. Recreate a nice tall mountain pose. Bring your hands together at your heart center and breathe. Align yourself. Swallow and relax the throat and the jaw. Beautiful. Okay, so from here, we're going to need a very light weights or no weights, okay? And because we're gonna take the weights far away from the body, and the farther away you take it from the body, the more tough it is because it's a long lever and you have to stabilize all of that. So 5 or less, you're gonna hold on to the weights, and this can be done no weights. Get a salt and pepper shaker even. Turn the underside of your forearms forward, hang the weights down, and we're gonna take the weights to the sides and all the way up. You might even see if you could touch them. Would they touch? Can you find them up there without looking? And then slowly is the key. You're gonna take them down. This is getting the lats a lot. And if you wanna change the placement of the feet for a little more stability, I recommend doing that. For those of you who are like, you know what? Nope, I'm not feeling much, which I certainly am, then you can lift one heel and put your weight more on one foot to give more of a balance aspect and more stabilization as a need here. Or you can do this, kind of like Daniel's son, Mr. Miyagi in Karate Kid, with one knee up. And if you did one side like that in any asymmetry, I recommend changing now, because your arms and shoulders and lats are probably getting tired. And maybe lift that other leg up if you did it on the first side. Ooh, yeah. I think we might feel this in the next day or two. I also know that our brains will get tired because of all of the change and shift and all the weirdness. And that's great, but also it's only great if you take a rest and allow it to rest, okay? And then place your weights down. I was about to add another weights in and I said, no, I'm not gonna lie to these wonderful folks. I told them one more. Okay, let's find our breathing, find our center, and then we'll take it into our last hit, a last high intensity interval training with or without the hop. So I'll show you, let's all do it first. And in fact, since that was the last weights, ooh, I'm taking these gloves off, see ya. All right, one leg comes out to the side, you're bending the other knee. We already did this move, we've already prepped our brain, but this time try to take the leg a little more out rather than close, okay? So we did side and tap. When we did heel tap, side tap, you've done that before, okay? So we're gonna do side, tap, up. Place it down. Other side, we're switching the side. Side, tap, up, down. Side, tap, up, down. Side, almost messed up, tap, down. Side, tap, up, down. Side, tap, up, down. You can tell there's coordination here and your brain is working because you're having to bend the standing leg, side, straighten, down, then bend it again as the other leg comes out. Now, if all of this is just a little too much, then you're just gonna do like this, side to side, okay? That's plenty, okay? If you want more, you're going to add a hop, side, tap, up, down, side, tap, up, down. And these are things you might want to practice over time, especially to create the neural pathways that haven't been created. Do whatever you want with the arms. You can make a little dance out of this. Woo! Like you're on Broadway. This looks like some kind of jazz move the more we do it, right? 3, 2, 1, and done. Weights are done. Hit is done. Now we get to soothe it with some yoga. Breathing it out. Come on down onto your back. Hug your knees into your chest. Point and flex through the ankles and give yourself pure space for breath. Relax the muscles of the neck and the jaw and the shoulders. And we'll just alternate, reaching one knee in, one leg out for a stretch. Press through that extended leg and then switch sides. So it's beautiful to do the effort. Keep switching sides slowly. But if we don't balance that with ease, then we are setting ourselves up to burn right out. That whole saying, burning the candle at both ends, that's exactly what it is. And then you just end up fizzling out and melting completely. So let's make sure we do the rest. Take care of our inner thighs, take the knees in and separate them and maybe just let the knees part to the distance that you're feeling a stretch. The knees can be further away or closer in, and you can play with the tilt of the pelvis in order to access the correct stretch for you. If this wants to transfer into a happy baby pose, grabbing wherever you can on the legs or the outer feet, you can. You might go a little side to side here, or you might not. And then soles of the feet down, press down into the floor. When you do that, you'll probably feel the low back come down and lift up the pelvis any amount. Hands can be on the belly alongside of you, or maybe even interlaced if you want more of a shoulder opener here, chest opener. Breathing. Opening what we condensed earlier through those hip flexors for sure. And of course, working the posterior chain. And come on down. Keep your left leg down. Take your right leg up. Now, this might be very far away from you. Doesn't matter as long as you're feeling a stretch. You're doing it right. Interlace the fingers behind the leg, anywhere that works, or the foot, or grab, if you have it like a bathrobe, grab that strap and put it around your foot and hold either end. Don't lift up and don't hike the shoulders up alongside of the neck for this. Breathing. We want it to be not like Cirque du Soleil. We don't want to be like, oh, my nose is on my knee. Okay, no, this is gentle release. That's what we're doing, gentle release. Switch sides. So notice which side feels a little tighter or a little looser. And just gather that information. That's just good information to know. Maybe you need to, if one side is tighter, do a little more stretching on that side sometimes, or be a little sweeter and kinder on that side if it doesn't do what the other side does. Same thing with strengthening. You might strengthen one side that feels a little weaker. So eventually you find more balance. Keep slow in your breath, not holding the breath, just slowly letting it enter and exit. And take the soles of the feet down. You can either go directly into Shavasana, laying down maybe with the blanket under your knees, or if your body needs another twist, take your very favorite twist action. I love to just bend one knee, take it over to the side, reach the opposite arm with the palm up, kind of diagonal out, even bending the elbow a bit. I generally feel a pop that happens there, which is safe and fine unless there's pain. Usually we have some snap, crackling, and popping. I'm gonna stay on this side. I only took that first twist for a couple seconds because I didn't feel like I needed it so much, and this side I definitely do, so I'm staying a little longer, hence what I was just talking about. And setting up for final relaxation pose. In fact, I am going to take myself legs up the wall. It's a little tough to get our hips as close to the wall as necessary for this. So the trick is to put the feet on the wall, knees point away, hips and feet on the wall. And then you're going to go underneath, threading. So I'm not going to mirror you guys, I'll tell you. My left leg is on top. My left hand tense like this, elbow bent. I'm going to slide my right arm underneath, shoulder down, and then roll up. I have my blanket there, which I can kind of put my feet on the wall, lift up, and take my legs up the wall here, and breathe. If this doesn't feel good to you, don't do it. And the other way you can do this is to bend your knees and put a chair or a couch underneath your calves for a little more support. This is good for varicose veins. This is good if you've been traveling a lot, especially on an airplane with the pressure change. And it's supposed to be really lovely for your heart and just reversing gravity. Also for your lymphatic system that does not have its own pump. So when we change directions in relation to gravity, we can change what's happening in our bodies a little bit. So find your breath and remember what I mentioned about resting. Finding the ease to complement the effort. You just had a ton of effort, so this ease is needed. Make space for your breath. And just breath by breath, do less and less work, less and less physical work, less and less mental work. So you want to be very careful sliding your feet down the wall. I like to put my hands kind of on my thighs and give them support. Take your time. And slowly coming to one side. You might move your blanket away. And eventually rise up to your seated position. And once again, you can either take your palms over your heart or hands together at the heart center. Thanking yourself for making this space and time. We only have one life in these bodies. May we know that we are worth our time. We are worth the effort, and we are worth the ease. Take a deep breath in. Sigh that out. Optional Om, inhale. The light of my heart honors the light of your hearts. Namaste, everyone.